Obama confronts conservatives in his inauguration speech. A Japanese envoy in Beijing to try to repair Sino-Japanese ties. And the mainland middle class a growing market for cruise operators.
Good evening. Barack Obama launched his second term as U.S. president overnight by confronting conservatives during his inauguration address. And domestic policy dominated his speech. He vowed to protect America's social safety net, pursue other liberal goals, and, surprisingly, promised to tackle climate change. America's first African-American president also pressed Republicans and Democrats to work together. James LaGilia reports.
U.S. President Barack Obama took the oath of office for a second time in 24 hours at his largely symbolic public inauguration after being sworn in the day before, January 20th, as required by the Constitution. Also symbolic were the Bibles Obama used, one that Abraham Lincoln put his hand on during his first inauguration on March 4, 1861, and another belonging to civil rights leader Martin Luther King.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
President Obama then spoke with fire in his belly about the same issues that first carried him to the White House 4 years ago, from social inequality.
For we, the people, understand that our country cannot succeed when a shrinking few do very well and a growing many barely make it.
To protecting social welfare programs. Obama defended them with an overt jab at the Republican presidential candidate he defeated, Mitt Romney, who during the campaign criticized the 47% of Americans who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims.
The commitments we make to each other through Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, these things do not sap our initiative, they strengthen us. They do not make us a nation of takers. They free us to take the risks that make this country great.
And Obama gave one of his most impassioned calls for action on climate change.
Some may still deny the overwhelming judgment of science, but none can avoid the devastating impact of raging fires and crippling drought and more powerful storms.
The president's brief mention of foreign policy touched on supporting democratic aspirations without mentioning to what extent, as the U.S. wound down one major war and winds down another.
We will support democracy from Asia to Africa, from the Americas to the Middle East, because our interests and our conscience compel us to act on behalf of those who long for freedom.
And on all issues, foreign or domestic, Obama issued a call to both parties.
We cannot mistake absolutism for principle, or substitute spectacle for politics, or treat name-calling as reasoned debate. Peace on earth and goodwill towards men.
Shortly following his inaugural address, the president signed documents in the U.S. Capitol to submit his nominations for top cabinet officials. Afterwards, Obama reviewed passing troops on the Capitol steps, evoking America's days as a young nation. Then into the motorcade, and the whole caravan headed back to the White House as thousands of admirers and well-wishers looked on. In this age of lockdown security, Obama thrilled some by getting out of the car and walking, a tradition begun by President Jimmy Carter 36 years ago. James LaGilia, TVB News.
Japanese envoy Natsuo Yamaguchi arrived in Beijing today for talks aimed at cooling tensions over the disputed Diaoyu Islands known as the Senkakus in Japan. The lawmaker and leader of the new Komeito, a junior partner in Japan's ruling coalition, made no comment but told reporters in Tokyo that he hoped his trip would ease months of friction. However, he said Tokyo's assertion that the islands are Japanese territory is unchanged, rejecting Chinese claims of sovereignty. Yamaguchi is not a member of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's government, so his meetings in Beijing represent a type of quiet diplomacy that could allow for a franker exchange of views than official talks might. In any case, he is expected to deliver a letter from Abe to Chinese Communist Party General Secretary Xi Jinping.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe declared a monetary regime change today as the central bank bowed to government pressure by setting a 2% inflation target. The inflation target and plans for open-ended central bank asset purchases are similar to the strategy followed by the US Federal Reserve to keep market interest rates low. However, there was a caveat. The Bank of Japan's new asset purchases won't start for a year. The yen strengthened against the US dollar after the BOJ announcement, though it is much weaker than it was before Abe's Liberal Democratic Party won a landslide election victory last month. Abe began lobbying the central bank to ease monetary policy even before he took office in late December. He said more aggressive action was needed for the world's number 3 economy to escape from years of falling prices that can dull consumer spending and business investment.
And in local news, passengers may have to pay more when they take green taxis. A number of groups in the new territory's taxi trade have asked for a flagpole fare hike of $2.50 in a meeting with Transport Department officials. Ng Yuk Hang has more details.
The new territory's taxi trade wants to put up fare by $2.5 on flagpole, bringing it up to $19. Then $1.4 instead of $1.3 for every jump of the meter after that. But it will still be $1 for every jump after 9 kilometers into the trip. An industry representative says costs have gone up in recent years. The prices of tires, batteries and insurance have risen by 30 to 100%, he said. Some people may worry that business will be affected by a fare hike, but I can't see how that would harm the driver's livelihood, he said. The last time taxis had a fare increase was in July 2011. According to government figures, the number of taxi passengers dropped by 3.75% in August to December 2011 as compared to the year before. This woman thinks it's acceptable as green taxis are cheaper than red taxis to begin with. But this woman doesn't want any fare increase when prices of other things are already going up. Secretary for Transport and Housing Anthony Zheng said the fare hike application will be considered by the Transport Advisory Committee and the Legislative Council. The process will take a few months, he said. Zheng also said the government will look into the feasibility of a fuel surcharge for taxis.
In the past, the government was quite reluctant to pursue the idea because the government then was worried that it would create confusion among the passengers, particularly if we are talking about very regularly revising the fuel charges. I mean, say every month you have to update and change, if necessary, the fuel charge. Then, of course, for the passengers, when they get on the taxi, then they will have to make sure whatever charge imposed on them on fuel is a legitimate one.
He said the government will look into the experience of overseas countries in implementing fuel surcharges. Ng Yuk Hang, TV News.
The Kai Tak cruise terminal is expected to open its first berth this year, and the tourism industry says the timing is right to snap up business on the mainland. Etienne Lamy-Smith reports.
The Hong Kong Tourism Board held a forum today on the development of Hong Kong as a cruise hub. The event was attended by more than 100 foreign and mainland guests. With the Kai Tak cruise terminal's first berth set to open in June, cruise operators will be focusing on the mainland market. Chairman of the Hong Kong Tourism Board, James Tien, said the middle class on the mainland is expanding. He said with an annual economic growth of 8%, in 5 to 6 years, China will see a middle class totaling 500 to 600 million people, a huge market. Acknowledging environmentalist concerns about air pollution, Tian, who's also a Liberal Party lawmaker, said he agrees with the government's plan to force ocean-going ships to switch to low-sulfur fuel when they're at berth here in Hong Kong.
Tian said industry representatives have told him it would increase costs slightly, but he said that other terminals in the world have similar regulations, so he doesn't think it would make this one any less attractive to operators.
The Commissioner for Tourism said the government will conduct research to minimise pollution.
A very important policy objective of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government is to enhance our environmental protection standards. We will be installing onshore power supply at the new high-tech cruise terminal. And in due course, there will be legislation to require ocean-going vessels, including cruise ships, to switch to cleaner fuel while they are at berth in Hong Kong.
Jung said that only 10% of ocean-going vessels are currently taking part in a scheme by which they get a subsidy for switching to cleaner fuel when they're docked. He said that if the industry thinks the scheme should be adjusted, the government would look into it. Etienne Smith, TVB News.
And still ahead in the news. Prince Harry talks about his tour of military duty in Afghanistan. French and Mali troops retake a strategic town from Islamist fighters. And Stephen Wong denies purposely using illegal substances